and we all look different. This is no problem. Christ needs us all. He needs us to look different, or we would look the same. Now, here's the difficulty. This conservative thing, from what I can see, there's a wall here, and on the other side of the wall can be judgment, superiority. We have it right, therefore nobody else does. That's not true. It's just not true. So it's fine to be conservative, but it's not okay to be superior. That would be erroneous, because the truth is there's not one person in this church superior to another. No matter what your vocation, no matter what your job or role in the church, there are none of us superior to another. Then you have the liberal, say, side, and that's fine, but there's a wall. And the other side of the wall is disobedience. And that's not okay. Because in the beautiful body of the church, and you can have superiority on this side and you can have disobedience on this side, but in the beautiful body of the church, it all flows up through our priests, through our bishops, through the Holy Father, and up into heaven. Here's heaven. It comes down through the Holy Father, through the bishops, the priests, and out into this. It's okay that we all look different. It's not okay to have an attitude that says, if they don't look like me, they're getting it wrong. You know? So we want to be very alert to that. Now, the Lord wants us to leave judgment to Him. He wants us to call others back into the church, others back into this beautiful, big body of the church, so they can look a lot of different ways and still be welcome in our church. What is the truth? This is God's church, and they are welcome. That is the truth. We have to witness to the truth. The Catholic Church is not a club. It's not an exclusive club. It's a universal family. It's a universal family. It's not a club. So we witness to that truth. So if we want to draw others back into the church or into the church for the first time to conversion, and we do, that's God's goal, we will get them not by telling them where they're getting it wrong. Most people know where they're getting it wrong. We will draw them in by being a compassionate presence in their pain. This is how Jesus did it. When Jesus saw the woman who had committed adultery about to be stoned, did he go up and start listing her sins? Did he walk over and say, here's where you're getting it wrong? What he did was he said to the others, here's where you guys are getting it wrong. Jesus doesn't like judging because that's his job. So it's good that we're looking at this. Let's not be discouraged. Here's how these are things that help me. This is what helps me, because I would catch myself at this. And I didn't like it. I knew it was a problem. And so what I decided was, okay, no matter what's going on, no matter what a person's doing, I can't judge them. And sometimes if people mistreat you, it's hard, isn't it? And you're very tempted to judge them. They couldn't be right. They're mistreating me, right? And so what I did was, okay, I'm going to view everybody the way God views them. It's the only answer. I'm going to look at everyone the way God looks at them. We are all God's children. God views us all as boys and girls. No matter how old we are God's children. We are boys and girls. So it will help us if we view everyone around us as a boy or a girl, a little boy, a little girl, even if they're 95. So I'll tell you a story about this. There was a woman struggling with someone in her family who was really hurting her. And he was misbehaving, there's no question. And she was tempted to judge him very harshly. She was really judging him. And so I said, okay, let's try this differently. Let's try to view him as a little boy. Let's view him as a little boy because he's a child of God. And she was not an American. And she said, yes, that's good. I will say, he is just a boy. He is just a bad, bad boy. So she got it half right. It was so instinctive. So if we can say, he is a boy doing a bad, bad thing. And that would be okay. But we have to be careful. Okay, I'll tell you another story. There was a case in Austria, I think. And in Austria, there was a woman, a girl, and her father was very abusive. And what he did was he locked her in the basement. And she had a number of children by him. And she was subjected to dreadful degradation and abuse. And how did she deal with this? Well, she did her best to care for the children God sent her and to educate them. She taught them, and she cut out little stars and she decorated the walls of their prison with brightly colored papers and brightly colored decorations. So she lived in the dark below ground. But what came from her was light. No matter what abuse was levied at her, no matter what pain, no matter what mistreatment, what came from her was light and love. Her father, on the other hand, lived above ground, but he lived in the darkness of abuse and control. And even though he lived up above ground in the light, as it were, what came from him was darkness. But she would not be made dark. This is how we have to be, each one of us. No matter what happens to us, no matter what mistreatment, we have to return love or hostility. We have to be ourselves. No matter what happens, we have to return love and light into the world and be ourselves. Because when someone is abusive, the abuse stays with that person. It says nothing about the victim. It says everything about the pain of the abuser. So we can be free of it. So we, in this lay apostolate, this lay apostolate is a spiritual movement. It's very broad, very big. It's a movement throughout the whole church. Someone said to me recently, well, what does a lay apostle look like? Should a lay apostle look like? And people have tried very hard to pigeonhole us, and this isn't possible. And I said, well, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror if you want to see what the lay apostolate looks like. It's a spiritual movement in the church, and we bring God's graces to people serving everywhere. The lay apostolate doesn't pull people from their service. It goes out to them and ministers to them where they are. It's renewal. It's part of this renewal. Recently, I could see that our team everybody's carrying crosses, because this is the way it is. Now, for example, don't raise your hands. How many here have felt lonely in the past week? I bet you everybody would put their hand up.